Hi, friends. Welcome to a new episode of YOLIHAIRKUTZ, the podcast. So, I am YOLIHAIRKUTZ, and today I bring to you one of my great friends, Clara Villaseñor. She is a clinical social worker, licensed therapist, graduated from UIC, whoop whoop, UIC alum. And so, with great pleasure and honor, I bring you this interview. I hope you enjoy. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. I look forward to your presence, and I'll see you in our next episode. Bye. All right. So, thank you for being here today, first of all.
Thanks for cutting my hair.
I know, right? Aside from getting your hair cut, I wanted to introduce my audience. Right, I started a new podcast. This is actually you're my first guest, in the chair, and I just want to basically talk to some amazing people, and I think you're one of them, because of the work that you do. And so, I want you, if it's okay, to introduce yourself and your work, and I really like to talk about Chicago, but I know you weren't born in Chicago, so I wanted also to for you to tell people just kind of a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and then what you do, and anything you want to share, I guess, about yourself before we dive into today's topic, which I'll let you talk about yourself, but I want to talk about further.
Well, my name is Clara Villaseñor. I guess my full name is Clara Francesca Villaseñor Cordon.
Nice.
Not that you can find that shit on Google or nothing, but
but just so y'all know.
Yeah. Let's see. I was born in Chicago, and then my parents got a divorce when I was 10, and then we moved to South Texas. I was basically raised in South Texas. But I would come back and forth to Chicago, which was my saving grace, because then I knew I could get out of South Texas, which was way too hot and there was nothing to do. And then you want me to my whole story? It's just a
little snippet, and then
okay,
so you came
South
to Chicago.
Texas, and then I went to college in San Francisco. I went to the University of San Francisco, and then from there, I came back to live in Chicago to make some money so I could travel. And then I traveled for a little bit, and then I came back to Chicago. And then eventually I went to school for social work. And then I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm a mental health therapist. I'm a bilingual mental health therapist. My foundation is what is it? Decolonizing, anti-capitalist, anti-racist foundation in my work. What else? I do get paid the most out of all the white people. I'm the only person I'm one of two people of color that are therapists. And I secretly found out that I get paid the most because I be advocating for myself and shit. I be demanding that shit. And they don't necessarily have the same values I do, but they also don't stifle my approach and my values, and they don't try to stop me, and which I appreciate. And the benefits are good, so that's my justification in working in that particular private practice. I say this because I've been thinking about this a lot.
For sure.
Because I also was thinking about making my own private practice, but then I just recently decided not to do that, and I'm going to continue my education. So I'm currently applying to the oldest school of herbalism in the country, which is Black owned and Black run.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and it's I think they said 18 to 24 months, so it's a really long program. It's super in depth, and I'm really excited. There's 3 times a year I have to go meet in person in Tennessee.
Wow.
And then it just so happens that prior to applying to this, there's this other thing called the Sacred Waters Retreat, which is for healers of color, for who identify as women or feminine or identify as women, but so doing that, and then eventually I want to be an RN, so I can also prescribe medication. So that eventually my practice, my belief system is that I want to be able to do all of those things. I want to be able to provide you with supplements and herbs and try that first, but I also recognize there are some diagnoses that actually really need medication, and there's really nothing else that's going to help give that kind of like balance and stability without it. And so I just want to be able to do all of it.
So, like, it's phenomenal. Like, I'm like really excited for you, honestly, because like.
Thanks. I haven't even talked to you about all of this in general. Like, this has all come up in like the last like 6 months or something, or the last like 4 months.
Well, you know, this is exciting because I do know another person who is actually in an herbalism school in Canada, and they are here again, and they're amazing. You should talk to them too, and I could see you guys doing things in the future as well.
Oh, dope! Yeah, definitely connect us.
And that's actually it's so exciting. That's why I wanted to do this, because I see so many of us in the community doing similar things, and I just want to get that word out there because I know that there's people doing something similar to what you're doing. So maybe if there's an interest, or if there's some resources you want to share, like the things you mentioned, maybe we'll link them in the like comment section or something, or and that way people can get access. And then I wanted to talk a little bit more because like, man, there's just so many layers on what you're saying, and I want to start to talk about some of them, specifically the overarching topic of culturally relevant therapy, right? Because you said some things that were really interesting, right? Because I feel like a lot of times as people of color, we're not taught how to advocate for ourselves within those professional environments. And I love how you said, like, because I advocate for myself, like, you're aware of that. So, like, I guess going into that a little bit, but mostly, like, the whole cultural competence thing about it, right? Because there's also the work environment that is hard for people of color to navigate as well professionally, while also maintaining their integrity, which it seems is something you're kind of like on a good terms with, right, within yourself.
Well, it's definitely a balancing act, absolutely. Yeah, like how do you come off as firm and strong and confident, and at the same time not too pushy or not too angry or not too much. Like, you have to, there's like a whole balancing act that happens with that. And at the same time, I don't know if it's because I'm 35, but it also, it's starting to just feel easy to do it. Like, it doesn't feel as difficult as like it was when I was in my 20s or something.
For sure. That's cool. So do you think like a lot of that has been like, how did you get to that point, or like what, like, I don't know, like how or what do you suggest for someone who wants to get to that point and advocates for themselves to a certain extent in their workplace or whatever, like.
Yeah, you know, that made me think, like when you asked that, like, how did I get there, like, it made me think about when I was in college. Like, I had the worst like stage fright. Like, I just remember I cannot talk in front of groups of people, and I used to do a lot of like advocacy work in college. Like, I used to run a lot of groups, and I would have like a panic attack every time, until I did this like speech class, and I like forced myself to like speak in front of people. And then I did like a spoken word thing in front of like 250 people. So I guess I just really pushed myself to do things that made me really scared and uncomfortable. Like, I've done that. I think I've always been really good at pushing myself to do things that made me scared and uncomfortable. And I think that's one of like the biggest, I don't want to say lessons, but like, if I didn't do those things, if I didn't do the things that made me scared and uncomfortable, like, I don't know where I would be. I'd probably still be in South Texas, like, not doing anything. So I feel like that's the biggest thing.
Right.
It's just not like, fuck it, I'm scared, I'm gonna do it anyway. Let's see what happens. Like, so like fast forwarding to work, I guess when I think of, I don't want to say networking. I don't like the idea of networking, but I'm genuinely intrigued by certain people, and so when I go to events or trainings or previous jobs, like, I will maintain connections and friendships with people that I genuinely find to be aligned with my values, and I continue to speak with them. I think that's important in community and connection. And so yeah, I guess, but it's also like really genuine. Like, I'm not just trying to keep them around. It's like I actually like them, and I think that they have value.
Right, definitely, for sure.
And then, I guess at this point, also with age, when I advocate for myself, it's like, you actually owe me more money, is how I see it. Like, when it's so funny because recently, I just got bumped up again because I literally was just like, I need to have a conversation with somebody. Who am I having a conversation with? Because they just got bought up. This private practice recently just got bought by another company. So I was like asking the person that I normally would ask, like, who I need to talk to.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, they're willing to give you X, Y, and Z amount. And I was like, I haven't even asked anyone yet. That wasn't what I asked you. Like, I asked you for the contact of the person. And like that right there to me is like kind of insulting, right? Like, I'm not gonna go back and forth with you via email about pay. Like, I'm gonna talk to somebody and you're gonna give me their contact.
So is this the equivalent of going Karen?
No, I don't think so.
Why not? Why wouldn't it be?
I
mean, I'm trying to be funny, but like, I think someone honestly could be like, oh, like, what's the difference? And like, in your opinion, what's the difference? Like,
this is my pay. This is my livelihood. Karens be going there because they didn't get what they wanted from Target. Like, those are two different things. Like, this is my life. This is my livelihood. This is not because of something stupid like material shit.
Right. I'm glad you said it like that because honestly, I feel like sometimes we need to hear it. So I'm just glad
I'm glad you asked it because at first I was a little taken aback. Like, Martha, why are you asking? Like, what? This is not even the same thing. But I see what you're saying. Yes, that's a good question. People be thinking shit. That's not. But and either way, that was like via email. I'm also very like I don't send emails. I don't really. There's not things I complain about, but I do advocate for my clients if I don't like how people are behaving. But in terms of me, like, I haven't said anything in over a year, so they're lucky I don't ask for more throughout the year.
I love it. Yes,
I'm
so
just saying. And then what else were you asking?
Well, I was actually gonna ask you more about like, cause you mentioned clients, and I know there's like confidentiality. I want to hear about cases or anything like that. I mostly want to hear about something that I like. Some things I picked up on when you were speaking, mostly about like the clients you serve, right? Like how you stand up for them and things like that. And I've noticed that a lot of, because I know a lot of people who are in the line of work that you do with social work and mental health and all that. And it brings me to this point of like how important is the organization, because in their approach to that cultural relevant therapy, and like to me it's shocking that there's only 2 of you of color, but it's not shocking because it's like at the same time it's like I hear that story over and over again, that most practices don't have the adequate cultural competent licensed workers to help communities out. So I guess in your view, like, how can one resolve that? Like, is it systemic? Is it like, what is it, like, in your opinion?
I mean, it's absolutely systemic, right? We know white supremacy is deep-seated in all of our systems, including mental health.
Right.
Especially private practice, because there's just no regulations around it compared to, like, nonprofit organizations, like community mental health or something.
Wow.
And even then, it's like, it's really just the government telling you to, like, fill out all this paperwork to say that, like, you did the work for them to give you this money or whatever. But that's community, that's different. That's separate. But, yeah, I guess, like, for me personally, like, I went to the front desk and I was like, hey, try to only give me, like, QT BIPOC clients. And they were like, well, how am I supposed to know that if everything's online? And I'm like, Google it. No, that's true, though. Like, that, I guess, right, especially right now, because everything is online, it's a little bit more difficult to navigate those things. But, like, when people come in person, I guess I also, like my Psychology Today profile is really, like, vocal about, like, me prioritizing QT BIPOC people as, like, being able to access me for therapy.
Yeah.
The practice itself, they just don't, I think just like any other majority white organization, like, they don't seek out people of color. Like, they let people apply to them, and the people that apply to them or know that the position is open is white. They don't seek out, they don't purposefully try to find people in communities of color. They just, like, let things be what they are. And the only reason why I knew about this place was because my sister worked the front desk at one point. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known about it either, because I don't be on the north side ever.
That's interesting. So not only, like, do we see a lack of, I want to say not only, like, resources, but that communication, right? Like, hey, there's this job available, but, like, hey, there's these resources available. And I'm kind of seeing how it's, like, hand in hand, because, like, if the provider isn't there, then how is the client supposed to, like, be, like, encouraged to want to go to that practice, and that inclusivity and, like, all that. So that's really interesting how one really goes hand in hand with the other, it seems.
There's also, like, a balance of, because there's many private practices in the city.
Okay.
So I am trying to navigate, like, ensuring that my values are at the forefront of my decisions, and at the same time, I need to take care of myself. Like, I need to create the hours that are gonna be, like, not let me burn out. Like, I don't work till 8 p.m. A lot of therapists do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
But I don't want to burn out. Like, I want to be good for the clients that I actually have now.
Yeah.
So I have, like, an 8 to 5, right? Or 8 to 5, 8 to 4, and then 8 to 3. And really, I mean 9 to 5, 9 to 4, 9 to 3, because I don't really be doing 8 o'clocks. But, and I want a life. Like, I want to have something after work that I look forward to. I don't want my everyday to be all day therapy. And I also appreciate the benefits that this practice, like, provides me, which is kind of unheard of. Like, I've never heard of any other private practice that provides medical care, like, health insurance.
That's amazing.
I had surgery last year, and they paid fully for the short-term disability. Like, I didn't have to pay for, so it's just, like, that's, like, unheard of. Like, that is, like, not a thing. The dental, the vision, that's also free. We don't even pay for that.
Yeah.
So it's just, like, there's a lot, and that's, like, and look, these white people have access to this. If it wasn't for my sister telling me about this job, I would, like, everybody's asking me, like, how did you even find it? I was like, because my sister used to work there. You know, so it's just, like, that's not fair that we don't have the same access to that. Like, people are doing the same amount of work or more or for less pay, and they're not even getting these kind of benefits. And I don't think either it's because they won't, like, hire any people of color. I think they just don't look for them and they don't apply. That's what I'm thinking. At least at this practice.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they did actually, like, they have, like, some psychiatrists. They have psychiatrists of color. They actually have several of them.
Oh.
But therapists of color, they're mostly all white.
And do you mind explaining real quick? I mean, I know it's commonly confused, so I want to make sure people understand the difference between, like, psychiatry, therapy.
Oh, sure. That's, like, I get asked that question a lot, actually.
Good, okay.
So a mental health therapist is, like, a general term to describe somebody who is, like, a counselor and, like, does talk therapy in some facet, whether it's depending on whatever modality they use, like CBT or DBT or et cetera. So there's, like, many different types of therapy.
Which is the cognitive behavior therapies, right?
Yes, and
CBT.
dialectical behavioral therapy, and there's psychotherapy, there's what is it, like attachment theory therapy. There's all types of therapies.
Okay.
So that's mental health therapy. That would be the equivalent to a counselor, or people just say a therapist, assuming that people know that it was mental health therapist. And then there's also psychologists. So the psychologist is they have their PsyD. So PSYD is like the letters at the end of their name. And so they went to extra school other than master's. I think they have their doctorate in psychology. So it's still a talk therapist, but they just got a higher degree. And then, let's see, psychiatrist. So that's the difference, right? Psychologist, psychiatrist. Everybody confuses. Psychologists cannot prescribe medication. Psychiatrists prescribe medication. That is their job. Their job is to prescribe medication. People think like because they work in mental health, they have good bedside manner. They do not. Psychiatrists can be very traumatizing, as a warning. Like, I have heard so many terrible stories of people seeing psychiatrists and they just re-traumatize them.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's awful. Like, I have yet to have I have like one person on the list of like psychiatrists that I can refer people to, because I've just heard not great things. Actually, I have like one or two. And then definitely barely any psychiatrists of color. Like, that's so hard to find.
Huh. Why
Yeah.
is that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know why people don't go into psychiatry more. Also, well, I guess we kind of do, right? Culturally, people of color don't really believe in mental health, right? Like, we know, like, we get that a lot from our culture, from, like, you know, mostly, like, black and brown people is what I can really speak to right now. But,
For sure.
yeah. So, like, just culturally, there's just not really a belief system of, like, a benefit in doing talk therapy, let alone going into psychiatry. So psychiatrists are the ones that can prescribe you medication specific to your mental health needs.
Interesting. You hear that, youth? We need more psychiatrists of color.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Please, I know some of you are actually going into the psychiatric field and all that, like mental health, so we need you. Anyway.
Absolutely. No, for real. Like,
yeah.
it's needed, and people ask me all the time, do you know any psychiatrists? Can you recommend any? No, I cannot recommend any.
Oh, that's nuts. And that's nuts, especially like if we think about it quantifiably, like this is a big ass city. So like, can you imagine in smaller rural areas, people of color, like especially with all this traumatization that's happened in the 4 years, not to even forget last year, right? All the crazy shit last year.
Right.
So like, wow. I mean, I'm just a little shook at the moment. That's crazy.
Can I sit up a little bit? I think
Yeah.
I've made myself flop.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what other.
So psychiatrist, we have the therapist, and then
Well, I guess so psychiatrists and mental health therapists, those are the two terms that kind of encompass the mental health field. Psychologist is more of like an add-on. Like, I guess also, like, there's LCSW, LCPC, and psychologist usually.
a licensed social worker, right?
Licensed clinical social worker or licensed social worker.
Got it. Okay.
And then there's licensed clinical practitioner. Is LCPC?
Okay.
And then psychologists are like people who are just extra and want to go to grad school for whatever fucking reason. I don't know. I mean, like, you can, I guess, but
right.
I can still do this, and I do. I mean, I don't know. That's neither here nor there. Also, you can have more money, so
Okay.
the more education you have, you're gonna get paid more.
Right, more paper for the paper, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Cool. Interesting. So, you know, we have a big, you know, a big year ahead of us because last year was really crazy. And so in my last podcast, I was basically telling people, you know, don't worry about making resolutions, just worry about making goals and pivoting. And I wanted to know if you wanted to share any gems of wisdom in terms of like how people, especially people of color, right, like can really like what they can do to begin this year, right? Like, because we want that energy of this new year, right? That promise, so to speak. And so I want to bring some words of encouragement to people. And I'm wondering if you have any of those as a licensed professional social, ¿cómo se dice? Like mental health professional.
Yeah.
You know?
That's an interesting question coming after 2020. Like, I don't know about you, but 2020 fucking beat my ass. Literally, like, I feel like December was like, bitch, we not done. Boom, and like hit me again in December. That's what December felt like. Literally into New Year, there was just like an explosion of bullshit. And it just was 2020 was a lot. And so, I don't know, I'm not really about like New Year, new me necessarily, but I be doing like winter solstice manifestations.
Yeah.
And so I'm more so in like directed towards like nature and astrology and the stars, and like that's where my ability to how do I word this, working towards my future, I want to be aligned with nature, I guess, and
like it's natural cycles and such, right?
right. And so that's where I would begin manifestations and celebrate the creation of those manifestations, or like what has been created from them. And so like, yes, it's a new year, but I don't know about you, but bullshit still seeped over from 2020. So I think this is starting to, especially today. Did you see all that stuff in the news that was terrible as like racist white people bombarding the White House, and they didn't even, I'm sorry, like if they were black and brown, they wouldn't have gone that far. They would have died.
Oh yeah, they would have
been killed by fire.
You know,
everybody keeps saying that, like, it just, they saved themselves just because they're white.
Oh
like,
yeah, for sure.
No, like I can't believe like some dude is taking selfies on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Like, how the fuck, that's so disrespectful with his feet up on her desk. And so telling of just how you see how this shit just seeped into 2021. That's why it doesn't feel like, you know, like what can we do now? It's kind of like, okay, what were your goals to begin with? Like, what did you want to do last year that you felt like you couldn't do, or you started working on? And like now it's like, it's kind of like you need to go hard. Like, that's what this year is about. I feel like it's just like going hard into what you didn't feel like you could do or finish or complete or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I always feel like every year is that, right? Like, I'm always about trying to be, like, striving towards being the best version of yourself.
Correct.
That's an everyday thing. That's not even every month, every year. That's like every day. What decisions am I making today to be the best version of myself? Am I ensuring that the decision I do make is aligned with my values? Am I going against what I believe? So it's like constant evaluation of that. I don't know what my purpose was. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what my purpose was. And that's, I think, the fun part of your 20s is that you're discovering these different parts of yourself. At least I was. Like, I made a lot of decisions that were more, like, fun and fulfilling for the moment, and not necessarily for my life. Thank God. I mean, I guess, like, I didn't make, I guess I did make a decision that was like, I was like, well, I did make a decision that actually changed the trajectory of my life. But, well, I guess all of the decisions we make do that, right?
Some more than others.
I know, some more than others. But there just came a point, it's funny because I feel like with people who have gone through trauma, it's almost like we're good. There's like different kinds of people, but I know that a lot of the people in my life that have dealt with trauma, we're so good at professional development. Like, we're so good at focusing on work and like developing that aspect of our life. Our whole world could be up in flames, but that part of our lives are like intact. Like For real, our personal lives are up in flames. Our shit with our family is fucked up. But our professional life is like on track.
Hey.
And so for me, on track in my 20s meant like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to try all these things and see what works for me. Like I did, like I worked at a management company for a building on the north, for like a business building on the north side.
Oh, wow.
And I was like the executive, like assistant management. I forgot exactly what the title was, but I did that as a temp job. And there came a point where they were like, "Can we just hire you? Like, we don't want to like lose you." Da, da, da. And I was like, "No, the money was so good." And I was like, "No, like this is not what I want to do, and I will not. I refuse to be stuck in something just because of money." And it wasn't like a terrible job, but it was not fulfilling at all. Like it was,
right.
you know, it's an office job. And so I feel like things like that of like, I'm not just going to say yes because I'm good at it.
All right. So here we have the end of the haircut and looking gorgeous.
Look at this.
Oh. I just wanted to say thank you though. Thank you so much for like taking the time to like just come here, talk to us today about like a bunch of awesome things, but you know, overall just about like mental health and like mental health for people of color. And so with that being said, before we you know just say goodbye, part our ways, is there anything that you would like to share with us, just to close off?
Yeah, so I am gonna recommend everyone go to therapy. Especially if you experience childhood trauma, which most of us have. I think it's really important to go to therapy. I also think I wish I had gone to therapy even earlier than I started going to therapy. And even as a mental health therapist, like the best therapists have their own therapists, because we have our own shit that we are ongoing dealing with. And if we are not dealing with our shit, how are we supposed to be present for our clients? Like, how are we supposed to be 100 with our clients if we are not well ourselves?
Right.
Not to say, like, you know, you have to always go to therapy all the time. Like, some people do, and that's fine. But there's sometimes there's just periods where, like, you're just going to really need some solid support for, like, however long that is. And then sometimes you don't. But, I don't know. I'm always for it. So, I'm just going to recommend as a young person, like, if you have shit going on, like, go to therapy. Like, fucking deal with that shit ASAP. Because you don't want to be a lot older and still dealing with stuff from when you were, like, 20, 18, 5. Like, you just don't want to still keep dealing with that. Which you kind of will be, right, if it's trauma. But the point is that you learn how to manage it and how to deal with it in a way that's more manageable.
For sure. Just becoming more aware of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I think that's definitely a gift, and like thank you for those awesome words. Go ahead.
Yeah, and if when you do look for a therapist, don't be afraid to leave if you are in a couple sessions and you just are not connected to that therapist. Like, it's super important to continue to advocate for yourself even within these spaces, right? If you go to a doctor and you don't like what they told you, or you don't like that they didn't give you a certain test, you're not going to stay with them, right? You're going to go to another doctor that's going to do the things that you need to do for you. So it's the same with mental health therapists. Like, find somebody you connect with really well, and like that's the person you're gonna stick with, because this is like a long game. This is not like a couple. I keep wanting to say episodes.
Right.
This is not like like a couple sessions, right? This is like for a long period of time, and you got to be comfortable with this person. So super important to make sure you have a connection with your therapist, and don't be afraid to like look specifically like, I want a woman of color, or I want a queer person, or like all of those things. Like, just look for it.
Nice. Thank you for that. That's very important. So don't forget to be specific and look for someone who is exactly catered to what you're looking for. Don't be afraid to keep looking until you find someone, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even say like exactly catered to what you're looking for, because sometimes we don't know what we're looking for, right? But we feel connection, right? And so like, how does this person make you feel? Do they make you feel like judged? Probably not a good idea to be with a therapist that makes you feel judged. Like, just things like that. Like, how does this person make you feel when you're with them? Do you feel like you can open up to them?
That's nice. And beginning with honoring those feelings, I guess, right? Making that step. Wow. Awesome. And then one more thing before we leave, 30 seconds of gratitude. So I'm going to get in the habit of ending this podcast with gratitude because science and life has shown that gratitude is good for the for us, our health, our mental health, physical well-being. So I don't know if you want to share with us in 30 seconds or less a little bit about like something you're grateful for and you want to share with us.
Oh man, I think I told you like the end of this, like December 2020, just like kicked my ass. I guess I'm grateful to still be here, right? Like I'm grateful that all the bullshit that I've been through, I've survived all of it, and so I'm so grateful for that. And the things I've learned and overcome from it is like, there's just no words to describe how grateful I am for that. And I'm really grateful for this fucking haircut. This cut look good, but like I'm just like, what? It's just so soft. It's just great. Every time I leave here, I'm like, yes. Oh my god.
Come to YOLIHAIRKUTZ. Well, thank you so much, Clara.
Wait, what are you grateful for?
All right. What am I grateful for? Obviously, I'm grateful for this moment, for your presence here. For you always just being so loyal and like just down to earth with me and willing to just have great conversations with me and be willing to do this because I'm grateful that I got off my ass and actually like it's not perfect, it's not where I want it to be per se, but like it's okay, like we're all building and that's the focus, and that's like I know what I want to do, so I'm grateful that I have that vision, that purpose right now, because without that I think I'd be a little bit more lost. So, yeah.
Well, I see you, girl. You're always on your grind. I love that shit.
Thank you.
Oh, every time I see you, it's like something that you're doing something that's cool.